The story we are about to unfold today challenges the very boundaries of what can be proven in a laboratory versus what is felt. At the center of this narrative is a man whose entire life was dedicated to logic, medicine, and the hard facts of biology. This doctor, who for decades proudly declared himself an atheist, never expected that one specific patient would change his entire worldview. He was used to the finality of death and the cold clinical reality of hospital corridors where science is the only king. But what he witnessed in the room of young Carlo Acutis did not follow any medical protocol he had ever studied. He found himself facing a mystery that his surgical tools and years of academic training simply could not begin to explain. Young Carlo was not a typical patient, and the doctor sensed this the very moment he stepped into that intensive care unit. There was a profound serenity on the boy's face that stood in violent contrast to the gravity of his terminal clinical diagnosis. While medical science dictated that his body should be in absolute agony, Carlo's expression radiated a peace from another world. The doctor, with his stethoscope and his analytical mind, tried to find biological reasons for such extreme spiritual resilience and calm. He did not know then that this would be the last case of his career that he could explain using only textbooks. It was the beginning of a journey that would lead a man of science to question the very fabric of reality. Before we dive deeper into this incredible testimony, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. By joining our community, you will never miss these powerful stories of faith and the unexplained mysteries of our world. We are dedicated to bringing you content that explores the intersection of the physical and the spiritual realms every single week. Your support helps us share these messages of hope with a global audience that is searching for deeper meaning in life. Simply click the subscribe button and the bell icon to stay connected with us as we reveal more secrets. Now let us return to the hospital room where the boundaries of the known world were starting to fade away. The leukemia that struck Carlo Acutis was the M3 type, known as one of the most aggressive and rapid forms of the disease. The doctor knew that time was a luxury the young boy did not have, and every passing hour was a lost battle against cells. However, what intrigued the specialist most was not the speed of the illness, but the total absence of complaints from the patient. Carlo offered his immense suffering for the Pope and the Church, something that sounded like madness to a man of pure logic. The doctor watched the machines beeping, signaling the approaching end, while the boy's spirit seemed to grow even brighter and stronger. He was witnessing a biological collapse, accompanied by a spiritual ascension that defied every rule of psychology and human nature. The hospital environment is usually heavy with fear, despair, and the sharp scent of chemicals that remind us of our fragile mortality. But in that specific room, the nurses and the entire medical staff began to notice a different atmosphere, almost as if time slowed. The doctor tried to maintain his professional distance, focusing on blood tests and oxygen levels that were dropping at an alarming rate. He found himself staring at Carlo, trying to understand where the strength to smile came from amidst the chaos of a failing body. Science was clearly losing the physical battle, but something much greater seemed to be winning the war over death in that space. The air felt charged with a presence that the doctor's instruments were not designed to detect or even acknowledge. Carlo Acutis often said that the Eucharist was his highway to heaven, a phrase the doctor heard with a certain intellectual detachment. To a convinced atheist, these were just the comforting words of a religious child trying to cope with his own inevitable end. However, the conviction with which Carlo spoke about eternal life began to pierce the armor of logic the doctor had built. It was not just a desperate wish to live, but an acceptance so deep it seemed Carlo already knew his final destination. The doctor felt he was standing before a mystery that no scalpel or medication could ever reach or properly resolve. He was seeing a boy who was not afraid of the dark because he saw a light no one else could. The final hours of Carlo were marked by a clinical deterioration that, by all medical logic, should have caused unbearable physical pain. The doctor prepared the strongest sedation to ensure the boy did not suffer, but what he saw was a young man in total peace. Every breath Carlo took seemed like a silent prayer, and the doctor found himself holding the patient's hand in a rare gesture. He felt an energy that he could not measure with his devices, a presence that filled the void between the cold walls. The doctor's skepticism was being tested by the quiet grace of a child who was about to leave this world behind. It was a moment of profound transition that would haunt the physician's thoughts for many years to come. It was in this moment of transition that the doctor had to make the hardest decision of his long and distinguished medical career. He looked at the clock, then at the heart monitor, which now showed a flat line, and felt a void he had never felt. In declaring Carlo Acutis dead, something inside the doctor also seemed to fall silent, as if a part of his disbelief died. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the boy's face, which looked as though he were only in deep sleep. What happened in the minutes following the official declaration of death would be what the doctor kept as a secret for years. He was about to witness something that would eventually force him to tell the world that science has its limits. If this story is touching your heart, please give this video a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to know if you believe that there are things in this world that science will never be able to fully explain. Your engagement helps this video reach more people who might be struggling with their own doubts or looking for a sign. When you like and comment, you help the algorithm spread this message of hope and mystery to those who need it. It only takes a second of your time, but it makes a massive difference in how many lives we can touch. Let us continue with the doctor's revelation about what he saw after the monitors went completely silent that day. The doctor stood by the bed, ready to sign the paperwork and notify the family of the tragic but expected passing of Carlo. But as he looked at the body, he noticed something that shouldn't be happening according to the laws of post-mortem biology. Instead of the usual pallor and coldness that follows death, there was a strange, lingering warmth and a subtle glow on the skin. He checked the pulse again, thinking he might have made a mistake, but there was no heartbeat and no breath at all. Yet, the boy did not look like a corpse. He looked like he was vibrating with a life that transcended the physical. This was the exact moment the doctor's atheism began to crumble under the weight of an impossible, beautiful, and terrifying reality. The silence in the room was heavier than any silence the doctor had ever experienced in his long years of medical practice. Usually, when a patient passes away, there is a sense of a light being extinguished, leaving only the physical shell behind. But with Carlo, the physician felt as though the light had expanded rather than disappeared, filling every corner of the small room. He stood frozen, his hand still resting on the boy's arm, noticing that the usual signs of death were delayed. It was as if the biological clock had stopped, but the essence of the person remained vibrantly present in the air. This anomaly was the first crack in the doctor's long-held belief that we are nothing more than biological machines. He began to wonder if the soul was a tangible reality rather than a religious metaphor used by the weak. As he prepared to call the nurses to assist with the final procedures, the doctor noticed a faint scent of lilies. There were no flowers in the room, and the sterile smell of the hospital should have been the dominant olfactory presence. He inhaled deeply, confused by the sweetness of the air that seemed to defy the presence of a terminal illness. He looked at the medical equipment, checking for leaks or chemical reactions, but everything was in its proper place and order. The scent was not coming from the outside. It seemed to emanate directly from the bed where the young boy lay. This phenomenon, often cited in hagiographies of saints, was now manifesting before a man who believed only in what he smelled. He felt a shiver run down his spine as he realized he was witnessing a phenomenon that had no logic. Please take a moment to share this video with someone who might be questioning their faith or seeking a deeper truth. Sharing this story can be a powerful way to spark a conversation about the mysteries that exist beyond our sight. When you share, you help us reach people who are looking for hope in the midst of their own struggles. We believe that stories like this deserve to be heard by as many people as possible across the entire world. By hitting the share button, you become a messenger of this incredible testimony of science, meeting the truly divine. Together, we can spread this message of peace and the possibility of life after death to every corner of Earth. Now, let's look closer at the physical changes the doctor observed in those first few moments of the boy's passing. The doctor's clinical mind tried to categorize these events as hallucinations caused by the extreme stress of the long medical shift. He told himself that the scent was a psychological trick and the warmth was just a slow dissipation of the fever. However, his professional integrity wouldn't let him ignore the facts that were presenting themselves so clearly to his trained senses. He observed that Carlo's skin remained remarkably flexible and lacked the immediate signs of lividity that he saw in others. Usually the body begins its descent into the earth immediately, but Carlo seemed to be suspended in a state of grace. It was as if the boy was teaching his last and most important lesson to the doctor through his silence. The physician felt like a student again, realizing how little he actually knew about the mystery of the human exit. He remembered the conversations he had overheard between Carlo and his mother about the beauty of the other side of life. At the time, the doctor had dismissed them as fairy tales designed to comfort a grieving family during a tragic loss. But standing there, he began to perceive that Carlo might have been describing a map of a place he actually knew. The doctor felt an overwhelming urge to pray, a feeling that was completely foreign and even frightening to his atheist soul. He didn't know the words, and he didn't know who he would be talking to, but the impulse was undeniable. It was a visceral reaction to the holiness that seemed to radiate from the lifeless body of the 15-year-old boy. He realized that the boy's death was not a tragedy, but a graduation into a reality that science could not measure. The medical records would later state the cause of death as complications from leukemia, a standard and very accurate clinical description. But the doctor knew that the paper would never be able to capture the essence of what had truly occurred there. He felt a strange responsibility to protect the sanctity of that moment, even from his own colleagues and the hospital staff. He spent several extra minutes in the room, ostensibly to double-check the time of death, but really to observe. He wanted to see if his logical mind could find a way to debunk the sensations he was currently experiencing so vividly. But the more he analyzed, the more the spiritual reality took hold of his heart, refusing to be pushed away easily. He was a man caught between two worlds, the one he could prove and the one he could only feel. If you find this testimony inspiring, please leave a comment with the word faith to let us know you are watching. Your comments help us understand which parts of these stories resonate most with our audience and help us grow together. We read every single comment and are often moved by the personal stories you share about your own spiritual journeys. Engaging with our content ensures that YouTube continues to show these videos to others who are searching for similar answers. It is a simple way to support the channel while also connecting with a community of like-minded believers and seekers. We are honored to have you with us as we explore the life and the enduring legacy of Carlo Acutis. Now let's move forward to the moment the doctor had to speak to the family about what he saw. When the doctor finally left the room to speak with Carlo's parents, he found himself unable to use his usual clinical tone. Normally, he would deliver the news with a practiced, compassionate distance that protected his own emotions from the weight of grief. But as he looked into their eyes, he felt a surge of connection that bypassed all of his professional boundaries and walls. He told them that their son was gone, but he also felt the need to tell them that something had remained. He struggled to find the right words in Italian to describe the peace and the light he had just witnessed in private. His voice trembled, a rare occurrence for a man who had delivered bad news to hundreds of families over his career. He wasn't just a doctor anymore. He was a witness to a miracle that was just beginning to unfold. The parents' reaction was not one of devastating despair, but of a profound, tearful acceptance that mirrored their son's own heart. They seemed to already know what the doctor was trying to say, as if they were all part of the same mystery. The doctor realized that their faith was not a crutch, but a powerful lens through which they saw the entire world. He felt a deep sense of envy for the first time in his life, not for their possessions, but for their certainty. He went back to his office and sat in the dark, staring at his medical degrees hanging on the wall in frames. They suddenly felt like pieces of paper that described only the surface of a very deep and very wide ocean of life. He knew that his life as an atheist had ended in that hospital room, alongside the life of the young boy. For weeks after the funeral, the doctor found it difficult to return to his normal routine of diagnosing and treating patients. Every time he picked up a chart, he thought of the glow on Carlo's skin and the scent of lilies in the air. He began to research other cases of incorruptibility and spiritual phenomena, searching for a bridge between his science and this new faith. He wasn't looking for an excuse to believe. He was looking for a way to reconcile the two halves of his mind. He realized that science and faith were not enemies, but two different languages trying to describe the same magnificent creator. The atheist doctor was being reborn through the death of a saint, and the transformation was both painful and beautiful. He knew he could never go back to the man he was before he met the boy who loved the Eucharist. The doctor began to spend his late nights in the hospital library, searching for any medical precedent for what he saw. He looked for cases of spontaneous bioluminescence or rare chemical reactions that might occur during the final stages of total organ failure. However, every scientific paper he read seemed to describe a process of decay that was the opposite of Carlo. The more he studied the mechanics of death, the more he realized that Carlo's transition was an outlier in history. He felt a growing frustration because his old tools of measurement were failing to capture the magnitude of the event. It was as if he was trying to measure the depth of the ocean using only a small ruler. His intellectual pride was being stripped away, leaving behind a raw and honest curiosity about the nature of the soul. One evening he decided to visit the local church, where Carlo used to pray for hours in front of the tabernacle. He sat in the back row, feeling like an intruder in a place he had spent his entire life mocking. The flickering candles and the smell of incense reminded him of that mysterious scent he encountered in the hospital room. He closed his eyes and tried to remember the exact feeling of the warmth that emanated from the boy's skin. For the first time, he didn't try to explain it away. He simply allowed the memory to exist in its fullness. He realized that his atheism had been a shield against the responsibility of acknowledging a higher power in the world. But now that the shield was broken, he felt a strange sense of freedom he had never known. If you are enjoying this deep dive into the mystery of Carlo Acutis, please click the like button right now. Your likes tell the YouTube algorithm that this story is important and needs to be shared with more people worldwide. It helps us grow our channel and continue producing high-quality content that bridges the gap between science and faith. We rely on your active participation to keep these incredible testimonies alive for the next generation of truth seekers. Every single thumbs up counts as a vote of confidence in the message of hope we are trying to share. Thank you for being such an active part of our community and for helping us spread the light today. Now let's go back to the doctor's secret investigation and what he discovered about the boy's lasting legacy. The physician eventually reached out to a colleague in the Vatican who dealt with the scientific side of canonization processes. He didn't want to sound like a fanatic, so he phrased his questions with extreme caution and professional clinical distance. He asked about the preservation of bodies and the psychological states of young people facing terminal illness with such grace. His colleague listened intently, sensing that the doctor was describing something far more profound than a simple case study. They spoke about how certain individuals seemed to bridge the gap between the material world and the divine through suffering. The doctor realized he was not alone in his observations, as others had witnessed similar signatures of the divine before. This was not an isolated hallucination, but a pattern of holiness that had been documented throughout the long history. He began to document his own feelings in a private journal, noting how his perspective on his patients was changing. He no longer saw them as just sets of symptoms to be managed or biological puzzles to be solved by science. He started to see the spark in their eyes, the same spark that had burned so brightly in Carlo Acutis. This new empathy made him a better doctor, though it also made his heart much heavier than it was before. He found himself praying silently before difficult surgeries, asking for guidance from the same God he once denied existed. He didn't tell his colleagues about his new practice, fearing they would think he had lost his scientific mind. But in reality, he felt he had finally found the missing piece of the puzzle of the human condition. The doctor revisited the medical charts from Carlo's final week, looking at the white blood cell counts one more time. The numbers were catastrophic, and by all accounts, the patient should have been unconscious or in a state of delirium. Yet the nurse's notes consistently mentioned that Carlo was coherent, kind, and even joking with the staff until the end. This discrepancy between the physical data and the patient's behavior was a massive anomaly that no one mentioned. It was as if Carlo's spirit was overriding the biological signals of pain and exhaustion sent by his dying brain. The doctor began to realize that the mind-body connection was far more complex than modern medicine dared to admit. He saw that a strong spirit could indeed act as a master of the flesh in ways science cannot. Don't forget to join our channel membership to get exclusive access to behind-the-scenes content and special live Q&A sessions. Memberships allow us to go even deeper into these topics and provide you with additional resources for your journey. By becoming a member, you support the financial sustainability of this channel and help us create even better videos. You will also receive special badges and emojis to use in the comments, showing everyone your commitment to our mission. It's a great way to get closer to the creators and participate in the direction of our future content. Click the Join button below to see the different tiers and benefits we have available for you right now. We look forward to welcoming you into our inner circle of supporters and fellow explorers of the truth. The physician's transformation was not an overnight miracle, but a slow and often painful process of deconstructing his old life. He had to admit to his family that the man who mocked their prayers was now searching for a rosary. This humility was perhaps the greatest miracle of all, sparked by a 15-year-old boy he only knew for days. He began to understand why Carlo was so obsessed with the Eucharistic miracles and had created a website for them. The boy wasn't just interested in history, he wanted to prove that the divine could physically manifest in the world. The doctor was now living proof of that manifestation, a walking testimony of a heart changed by a holy death. He felt a debt of gratitude to Carlo that he knew he could never fully repay in this lifetime. He decided to visit the tomb of Carlo Acutis in Assisi, a place where the air felt thick with a sacred presence. As he stood before the resting place of the young cyber-apostle, he felt a familiar warmth in his own chest. It was the same sensation from the hospital room, a silent confirmation that he was on the right spiritual path. He didn't need any more blood tests or heart monitors to tell him that life continues beyond the grave. He knelt down, a gesture his younger self would have found absolutely ridiculous and even deeply offensive to logic. But as he prayed, he felt a joy that no scientific discovery had ever provided in his long career. He was finally at peace with the idea that some things are meant to be felt, not explained. The story of the Atheist Doctor began to spread among the local community, though he tried to remain as anonymous as possible. He wasn't looking for fame. He was looking for a way to honor the truth of what he had witnessed. He began to speak at small gatherings about the intersection of medicine and the soul, sharing his unique perspective. He told people that being a doctor is not just about healing the body, but about witnessing the spirit. His testimony became a bridge for many other skeptics who were struggling to find a reason to believe in God. He showed them that even the most analytical mind can find room for the miraculous if it remains truly open. The doctor who declared Carlo dead was now helping others find a new kind of life in faith. As the process for Carlo Acutis' beatification began to move forward, the medical community's interest in his case intensified significantly. The doctor found himself being interviewed by theological commissions and medical experts appointed by the Congregation for the Causes of Saints. He had to present his clinical findings with the highest level of precision, ensuring that every detail was backed by facts. Yet, every time he spoke, he found himself returning to the phenomena that weren't recorded in the official charts. He described the lack of rigor mortis and the peculiar preservation of the body that defied standard biological decay. The experts listened with a mix of professional skepticism and genuine wonder at the consistency of the doctor's testimony. It was becoming clear that Carlo's death was as extraordinary as the life he had lived online and off. One of the most shocking revelations came when the body of Carlo was exhumed years later for his beatification ceremony. The doctor was invited to observe the process, and what he saw confirmed everything he had felt in that room. While not fully incorrupt in the traditional sense, the body's state of preservation was remarkably advanced for the conditions. His internal organs were found intact, a detail that many medical professionals found difficult to explain after so much time. The doctor stood by the tomb, looking at the face of the boy who had changed his destiny. He realized that the warmth he felt years ago was just a precursor to this lasting physical sign. It was a message written in the flesh that the laws of nature were sometimes subject to a higher authority. If you believe that miracles are still possible in our modern world, please type "I believe" in the comments. We love hearing your perspectives and personal stories of how the divine has touched your life in unexpected ways. Your interaction helps create a space where science and faith can coexist without fear of judgment or ridicule. By commenting, you are also helping this video reach those who are currently sitting on the fence of doubt. Every story shared in the comment section adds another layer of evidence to the beauty of the spiritual journey. We value your voice and your presence in this community as we explore these deep, life-changing mysteries together. Now, let us delve into the specific medical anomalies that continue to puzzle the greatest scientific minds. The doctor focused specifically on the cardiac data recorded during Carlo's final moments on the intensive care unit's monitor. He pointed out to the commission that the transition from life to death was unusually clean and lacked trauma. In most cases of aggressive leukemia, the body struggles violently as the organs fail, leading to significant physiological distress. But Carlo's heart simply ceased its beating as if it were a clock that had finally fulfilled its purpose. The lack of cortisol spikes or signs of extreme stress in the post-mortem analysis was a medical impossibility. This suggested a level of neurological control and spiritual peace that overrode the body's natural survival instincts and reflexes. To the doctor, this was the strongest evidence that Carlo was in a state of deep connection with God. There was also the matter of the boy's blood, which remained in a state that puzzled the laboratory technicians. In the final days, the blood chemistry should have been toxic due to the rapid breakdown of white cells. Instead, some samples appeared to maintain a vitality that was inconsistent with the stage of the disease he was in. The doctor recalled how he had examined the slides himself, looking for answers that his textbook simply could not provide. He saw the destruction of the disease, yet there was a harmony in the samples that he couldn't name. It was as if the life force was refusing to surrender to the chaos of the cancer cell's growth. This was another piece of the puzzle that pointed toward a reality existing outside the standard medical paradigm. The doctor began to realize that his role in this story was to be the bridge between two worlds. He was the one who could speak the language of the laboratory and the language of the sanctuary. He spent hours explaining to his skeptical colleagues that being scientific meant being open to all observable data. If the data included a scent of lilies and an incorrupt heart, it was unscientific to simply ignore it. He challenged the academic community to look at Carlo's case not as a religious myth, but as a challenge. He wanted them to see that the universe is far more mysterious than our current theories allow us to understand. His courage to speak out as a former atheist gave a new weight to the entire beatification process. Subscribe to our channel if you want to see more content about the lives of saints and medical mysteries. We are constantly researching new cases that challenge the boundaries of what we think we know about the human experience. By subscribing, you ensure that you are the first to know when we release new, high-quality documentary-style videos. We strive to bring you the most accurate and inspiring information, blending historical facts with powerful spiritual testimonies. Your subscription is the fuel that allows us to keep digging deeper into these fascinating stories of faith. Click the button now and join a global audience that values truth, wonder, and the pursuit of the divine. Let us continue our look at how the doctor's life changed after the investigation concluded. The doctor's personal life underwent a total transformation as he integrated these miraculous experiences into his daily medical practice. He became known in the hospital as the Doctor of the Soul, a title that he wore with great humility. He no longer felt the need to have an answer for everything, finding peace in the "I don't know." He would often sit with the families of terminal patients, sharing the story of Carlo to provide them with hope. He wasn't trying to convert them, but rather to offer a glimpse of the peace that is possible at the end. His patients reported feeling a different kind of care under his hands, one that considered their spirit as much as their body. The man of science had finally found his heart, and it was beating in sync with the divine. He often thought about the website Carlo created to document Eucharistic miracles and how it now served as his own guide. The doctor, who once found the idea of the real presence to be a primitive superstition, was now a believer. He saw the parallel between the miracles on the screen and the miracle he had witnessed in the hospital bed. Both required a leap of faith that was grounded in a physical reality that could be seen and even touched. He realized that God often uses the physical world to signal his presence to those who are lost in logic. Carlo had used the internet to reach the world, and now he was using a doctor to reach the skeptics. It was a perfect divine plan that continued to unfold long after the boy had passed into eternity. The part of the story that the doctor reveals most reluctantly is the dream he had shortly after the funeral. In it, Carlo appeared to him not as a patient, but as a healthy, vibrant young man standing in a bright light. He didn't speak words, but the doctor understood the message. The science is the beginning, but love is the end. When the doctor woke up, he felt the same warmth he had felt in the hospital room on that cold night. He knew then that his mission was to tell the story of what science could not explain about Carlo. He was no longer just a doctor who declared a death. He was a witness who declared a life. This revelation was the final stone in the foundation of his new and unbreakable faith in the afterlife. Word of the doctor's incredible transformation and his specific medical testimony began to travel far beyond the city of Assisi. He was no longer just a local physician. He became a crucial voice in the global conversation about Carlo's sanctity. Journalists from around the world sought his perspective, curious about how an atheist could become a defender of a miracle. He handled the influx of media attention with a calm that he attributed directly to the grace of Carlo. Each interview was an opportunity for him to explain that his change of heart was based on evidence. He wasn't just following a feeling, he was responding to physical phenomena that contradicted every rule of medical science. The doctor became a symbol of how the most rigid mind can be opened by the truth of love. The Vatican's medical board continued to scrutinize every word the doctor spoke, looking for any possible inconsistencies in his story. They cross-referenced his memories with the hospital's electronic logs and the testimony of the nurses who were also present. What they found was a remarkable consistency that only added to the credibility of the entire beatification and canonization process. The doctor's willingness to risk his professional reputation among his peers was seen as a sign of his deep sincerity. He knew that some in the medical community would mock him or call him a religious fanatic for his views. But the peace he felt was far more valuable than the approval of colleagues who refused to see the light. He stood his ground, anchored by the memory of the warmth he felt in that silent hospital room. If you find this story as life-changing as the doctor did, please take a moment to share this video. We believe that this testimony can be a powerful tool for those who are struggling to find God. By sharing this link on your social media, you are helping us reach people who might never enter a church. You never know who in your circle of friends might be waiting for a sign exactly like this one. Help us break through the noise of the digital world and share a message that truly matters for eternity. Your one share could be the catalyst for someone else's spiritual awakening or a much-needed moment of peace. Let us work together to ensure that the story of the doctor and Carlo reaches every hungry heart. The doctor often reflected on the cyber aspect of Carlo's life and how it mirrored the spread of the testimony. Just as Carlo used the internet to evangelize, the doctor's story was now flowing through the same digital highways and paths. He saw the irony in the fact that a man who once hated technology's link to faith was now using it. He realized that the tools of the modern world are neutral and can be used to spread darkness or light. By sharing his witness online, he was continuing the work that Carlo had started before his very early death. The doctor felt a spiritual partnership with the young boy, a bond that transcended the physical boundaries of life. He was the hands and voice on earth for a boy who was now advocating from the heavens. One specific detail the doctor revealed was the condition of Carlo's heart during the final medical examination for the church. He described how the organ appeared to be full of life, as if it were ready to beat again. This was a profound biological mystery, as the heart is usually the first organ to show signs of significant decay. The doctor's clinical description of the heart's tissue and color left many experts in the room in a state of silence. They were looking at a physical organ that seemed to have been preserved by something other than chemicals or cold. This became a central point in the theological argument that Carlo had lived a life of extraordinary heroic virtue. The doctor's trained eyes saw more than just muscle. He saw the vessel of a truly great love. The physician began to write a book about his journey from the darkness of atheism to the light of faith. He wanted to document the science of the soul for those who, like him, needed logic to find the way. He spent hours at his desk, carefully choosing words that would respect both the medical craft and the spiritual truth. He described the biology of grace and how the presence of God can physically affect the cells of a human. His writing was not just a memoir, but a challenge to the entire scientific community to expand its narrow horizons. He wanted to show that the miraculous is not a violation of nature, but a fulfillment of its highest potential. The book became a bestseller, reaching thousands of people who were searching for a reason to believe in the afterlife. Would you like to see more videos about the miracles of Carlo Acutis? Let us know in the comments section below. We have a series of stories planned that cover the many healings attributed to his intercession around the entire world. Your feedback helps us prioritize which stories to tell first and how to best present this sacred and vital information. Whether it's a medical healing or a story of a soul being saved, we want to bring it to you. Commenting, "More Carlo," lets us know that you are eager to continue this journey with us into the supernatural. We are committed to being your source for the most inspiring and well-researched stories of modern-day saints and miracles. Thank you for being such an essential part of our growing community and for your constant, kind encouragement. The doctor's clinical practice became a place of pilgrimage for many people who were sick or looking for spiritual advice. He had to set boundaries to ensure he could still provide quality medical care to his regular patients in the clinic. However, he never turned away someone who was genuinely seeking the truth about what he saw in the hospital room. He kept a small picture of Carlo Acutis on his desk, a constant reminder of the day his life truly began. Patients often remarked that just being in the office brought them a sense of calm and a feeling of deep hope. The doctor knew that it wasn't him, but the presence of the one he served that was doing the work. He had become a vessel for a grace that he once thought was nothing more than a childish, silly myth. In his public speeches, the doctor often used a metaphor about a light bulb and the electricity that flows through the wire. He explained that science can study the glass and the filament, but it cannot always explain the power of the current. For him, Carlo was a light bulb that was brilliantly illuminated by a source that was not of this world's power grid. He encouraged his listeners to look past the physical glass of life and seek the current of the Holy Spirit. This simple explanation resonated with both children and professors, bridging the gap between the simple and the complex. He was no longer afraid to use the word God in his professional lectures at the university or hospital. His life was now a unified whole, where science and faith lived in perfect, beautiful and productive harmony. As the date for Carlo's canonization approached, the doctor felt a sense of completion and a profound, lasting peace in his soul. He had fulfilled his promise to speak the truth, no matter the cost to his old reputation as a rationalist. He saw that his entire career had been a preparation for those few days he spent caring for the young boy. Every surgery he performed and every life he saved was a prelude to the moment he witnessed a soul's flight. He was ready to witness the final elevation of Carlo to the altars of the world as a saint of the Church. The Atheist Doctor had become the greatest advocate for the boy who proved that the heart is made for heaven. He stood at the threshold of a new era, knowing that the best part of the story was yet to come. As the sun sets on this incredible journey of transformation, we look at the doctor's final and most private thoughts. He realized that the greatest miracle was not just the physical anomalies, but the total conversion of his own heart. The medical equipment had long since been packed away, and the hospital room had seen many other patients since 2006. Yet, the spiritual resonance of those few days remained as fresh as if they had occurred just this morning. The doctor now lives a life of quiet prayer, integrating his medical knowledge with a deep devotion to the Eucharist. He understands that his testimony is a gift he received to share with a world that is often lost. His life is a living proof that no soul is too logical or too distant for God to reach. The legacy of Carlo Acutis continues to grow, touching millions of young people who find a friend in the cyber apostle. The doctor often receives letters from other medical professionals who are struggling with their own doubts and scientific burdens. He replies to each one with a message of encouragement, telling them to keep their eyes open for the light. He explains that being a scientist is a holy calling because it involves studying the handiwork of the divine creator. There is no conflict between a microscope and a crucifix when both are used to seek the ultimate truth of life. The Doctor has become a grandfather figure to a new generation of believers who value both reason and faith. He sees the face of Carlo in the faces of all the young people who seek the truth. As we reach the conclusion of this powerful story, please consider supporting our channel by becoming a regular patron. Your financial contributions allow us to travel and interview witnesses like this doctor to bring you the full truth. We believe that stories of this caliber require time, dedication, and resources to be told with the respect they deserve. By joining our patronage program, you help ensure that the light of these testimonies never fades from the internet. You will receive special updates on our upcoming projects and a chance to suggest the next topics we cover. Click the link in the description below to find out how you can help us keep this mission moving. Every bit of support helps us reach more souls with the life-changing message of the Gospel of Jesus. The Doctor's final public appearance was at a large youth conference where he spoke about the signs of the afterlife. He didn't use complex medical jargon or difficult scientific theories to explain his experiences to the gathered crowd. Instead, he spoke from the heart about a boy who showed him that dying is simply moving to a better room. He told the audience that the unexplainable is actually just the part of reality we haven't learned to measure yet. He encouraged them to live every day as if they were already on the highway to heaven that Carlo loved. The applause that followed was not for him, but for the truth that he had the courage to tell. He walked off the stage with a smile, knowing he had finally finished the task God gave him. When people ask him if he ever misses his old life of certainty as an atheist, the Doctor simply laughs. He explains that he was never truly certain back then. He was simply ignoring the questions that were too big. Now, he has the certainty of someone who has seen the sun and no longer needs to argue about light. He feels a deep connection to the saints of old, who also had to reconcile their minds with the divine. The Doctor's story has become a standard reference in discussions about the relationship between modern medicine and religious experience. He has proven that you don't have to leave your brain at the door to enter a church's sanctuary. His journey is a testament to the fact that the more we know, the more we should wonder. Looking back at the specific moment of Carlo's death, the Doctor now sees it as a birth into a new world. He remembers the silence of the monitors and the glow of the skin as a divine signature on a masterpiece. He often tells his students that the most important thing they will ever carry is not their medical bag. The most important thing is their willingness to stand in awe of the mystery of the human person and soul. He reminds them that every patient is a sacred story, not just a biological problem that needs a quick fix. This philosophy has changed the culture of his hospital, making it a place of true healing for everyone involved. The Doctor is a man who found his soul by losing his pride at the bedside of a saint. Thank you for watching this entire series. Please let us know which part of the Doctor's story moved you most. We read every comment and use your feedback to improve the way we tell these sacred and historical narratives. Was it the scent of lilies, the warmth of the body, or the Doctor's final dream that touched you today? Your voice is a vital part of this channel's community, and we are grateful for your time and your attention. Sharing your personal aha moment can help others who are reading the comments feel less alone in their journey. We are honored to be a part of your day and your spiritual growth through these amazing and true stories. Stay tuned for our next video, where we will explore another miracle that science simply cannot explain or deny. The final revelation the Doctor shares in his book is about the power of Carlo's intercession in his daily surgeries. He claims that several times, when a case seemed hopeless, he felt a nudge or a moment of sudden, clear clarity. He attributes these moments to the young boy who promised to be more active from heaven than he was on earth. This partnership between a living doctor and a heavenly saint is a beautiful example of the communion of saints. It shows that death is not a wall, but a thin veil that can be pierced by love and by prayer. The doctor no longer feels alone in the operating room, knowing that he has a very powerful assistant. This sense of divine collaboration has made his work a joy rather than a burden of high stress. As we end this script, we are reminded that the story of Carlo Acutis and the Atheist Doctor is still being written. Every time someone watches this video and feels a spark of faith, the miracle continues to ripple through time. We are all called to be witnesses to the things that science cannot explain, for those are the things that matter. Whether you are a skeptic or a believer, the evidence of a life lived for God is a very powerful force. Let the peace that the doctor found be a guide for your own heart as you navigate the challenges of life. Remember that even in the darkest hospital room, there is a light that the darkness cannot ever truly overcome. This is the ultimate lesson of the boy who loved the internet and the God who created it. The doctor's last words in his memoir are, "I once thought I was a man who brought people back to life, but in the end, it was a young boy who was officially dead who brought me back to life instead." This powerful reversal is the heart of the gospel and the core of the mystery of the saints' lives. We hope this story encourages you to look deeper into the life of Blessed Carlo Acutis and his works. May your eyes be opened to the miracles that are happening around you every single day in your own life. God is always speaking, sometimes through a medical monitor and sometimes through the quiet heart of a child of light. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and may God bless you on your own path to truth.